Hi, my name is Bob Seeger. I'm the campus planner at the University of California, Davis, and it's my pleasure to be able to join you a little bit for your conversation in Flagstaff. I think it's great that you're getting the community and the campus and interested parties together to talk about your shared future. I'd like to share 3 different projects with you today that we've done on our campus, and the first thing I'd like to make really clear is that I'm not proposing that what we've done at UC Davis is any kind of prescription for what you should be doing in Flagstaff and NAU. Every one of our campuses and communities are in unique places, in unique environments, with unique cultures, and your solution or solutions will come out of crafting that in your unique environment. So that's what we've tried to do here, and hopefully just by sharing a couple of our projects, it'll give you an idea of what solutions we've tried and then add to your conversation. That's my hope. So I'm standing in the location. You can see the bus will be coming by here in a minute in a place on our campus that we call West Village. So I'm going to share 3 projects. The first one is here, West Village. It's a very large project that we did in partnership with a private developer. The second project is a very small project that's more about mixed-use faculty, staff, and rental housing in a place closer to our downtown. And the third project is a project that is actually still on the boards and is actually being completely reimagined. So I'm sharing 2 success stories that are on the ground and one that we're actually struggling with its unique conditions. And that one is called Orchard Park. So 3 projects. I'll do quick overviews, introduce the goals of the project, how it sits, what we were able to accomplish, and what our challenges remain. And again, I just hope it adds to the depth and richness of your conversation for Flagstaff and NAU. So we're at West Village. West Village is a large mixed-use housing community on the UC Davis campus. There's about 130 acres here that we have planned and entitled on campus. Our campus is huge. 3,700 acres contiguous right next to the city of Davis. The total population of the city of Davis is about 65,000 people. About 25,000 of those are students. So that gives you a sense of the scale of our community compared to Flagstaff and NAU. We sit adjacent to the town. The heart of our campus is walkable to the heart of downtown Davis. This community is on the other side of our campus, about a mile to a mile and a half from downtown Davis. The reason this community is here, and that we did all the work to both plan it and find a private partner and build it, is that about 15 years ago, our campus decided we were going to undergo a significant phase of enrollment growth, and our local city, the city of Davis, was not in a growth mode. They were very much in a limited growth, no growth mode. So we were facing a situation where increased students and faculty and staff at the university were going to increasingly turn into a commuter population, that we were not going to have places in our shared community between campus housing and housing in the city of Davis for new people to live. Our chancellor at the time decided, look, one of our strategic advantages as a campus and a community is that we're a college town. We're one of the few real college towns in California with its host university, or the reverse, the town hosting the university, depending on your point of view. And that I know is very similar to your situation in Flagstaff with NAU. So our chancellor decided, look, we have to decide, we have to do some planning, we have to host a significant amount of student housing and potentially new faculty staff housing on the campus itself to try to meet this demand, or the character of our whole community is going to change. So we did a master plan. Again, we've got the land to do it. This is on-campus land immediately next to our central campus. So our campus core, instruction and research core, is just to the east of where I'm standing, and to the north of where I'm standing, about a quarter mile, is a neighborhood for the developed part in the city of Davis. So we're on open land, but adjacent to our campus core and adjacent to the city. Long story short, we did a master planning effort for our long-range development plan. This was way back in 2003. It was approved by our regents. West Village's master plan to ultimately house about 4,500 people. About 3,000 of those would be students, and about 1,500 of those would be faculty, staff, and their families potentially. So we decided there was enough demand that instead of finding a separate spot for everything, we would try the idea of actually a full mixed-use community. So we planned it for student housing, we planned it for faculty staff housing. The student housing would be rental, the faculty staff housing would be for sale housing, on ground leases. We've done this before. The second project I'm going to talk to you about, which is creatively called Aggie Village. So we've got West Village where I am, and then Aggie Village is a small project where we piloted our faculty staff housing. The reason we do that, and they have this at a lot of University of California campuses, is as the housing prices get too steep in the local community, if we can figure out how to build faculty staff housing on the campus itself, we can then offer that typically at about 80% of market rate. It's a complicated process. The way it works is that if you buy one of those homes, you own your home, and then you ground lease the ground. You rent the ground from the university on a long-term lease. So you're an owner in fee, but there's a ground lease with the university, and that's how we keep the price affordable and low for the next buyer. So that's how we do faculty staff housing. West Village was planned for, again, 3,000 students, about 1,500 faculty staff, but again, a full mixed-use community. So I'm standing at the Village Square, and you've probably seen the buses go by in the time that we've been standing here, or if not, they will soon. At the Village Square, we tried to create a vital new public space for public life, because that's really what makes a campus work, is all these open spaces, and that's what makes a city work, for that matter, where public life happens. So at the Village Square, you see buildings around me. Behind me are four-story buildings. It's mixed use on the first floor, and then 3 stories of rental above. To my right, which you can't see, but hopefully you'll see some film of it, is a mixed-use recreation building. So there's a gym on the second floor, student lounge and study space on the first floor. Just behind me to the right is a cafe that's being built right now to serve the residents and the larger community out here. And the other thing on our Village Square is there's actually a community college center on our Village Square. We're the first University of California campus to build a community college center on our campus. It's a really great way of inviting the larger community onto our campus for the services that the community college provides the larger community, but the community college also provides a lot of services to UC Davis students, to our own community. So there may be a language that's taught at the community college that's not taught on the UC Davis campus. So we're hosting that community college in a 20,000 square foot building that they built with their own bond funds, and we have a site for them to expand ×3 if they choose to do that and can fund that in the future. So the Village Square is where we brought all the activity of the surrounding uses to one place to try to create this active public space that brings this community together. So the community college is on the Village Square, the recreation and study building is on the Village Square, the mixed use first floor where the cafe and office space exists is on the Village Square, and again, these rental buildings around it. On to the south and to the west of us are where most of the student apartments are. There are 2,000 students living out here already. And to the just behind me, behind these buildings, is where the faculty staff neighborhood will be. So kind of everybody in their own neighborhood, but all meeting and mixing and engaging at the Village Square. So that's the layout of West Village. I want to tell one more part about the West Village story, not spend a lot of time on it, but it's a very interesting part of the story of how the university is leveraging some of the energy work that we did here. Partway through the planning process, well, I'll tell you how it started. Partway through the planning process, I actually commissioned a small study with a brand new academic unit on our campus called the Energy Efficiency Center. The Energy Efficiency Center started with a $1 million grant from a group called CalCEF, which is the California Clean Energy Fund. And the first director of our Energy Efficiency Center was a professor from the Graduate School of Management. His name was Andy Hargadon. So I commissioned a small study from this startup institute, the Energy Efficiency Center on campus, to say, look, we're building this huge new community on campus. How far could we get, and what should we be doing with energy efficiency? It became a multi-year planning effort. Andy started the process, convened a whole bunch of people from the utility industries, the energy industry, finance industry, local community members, and we put together a plan that eventually got to a formula for zero net energy. Many iterations that I won't share with you about really extraordinary ideas for how that might work. The way it ended up working was in partnership with the developer. These buildings that you see have enough investment in energy efficiency to reduce their energy demand by 50%. So these buildings perform 50% better than a typical building built to California Energy Code, which is already very stringent. And then the remaining 50% is made up with renewable energy with solar power. So the rooftops of every building and every parking lot have solar. On any given day, like today when the sun is shining but it's pretty mild, the solar energy, the solar panels are creating more power than the community needs, and that'll be feeding the grid, and there'll be other days when we'll draw from the grid. The goal is on an annual basis that we net out at zero, that we have enough renewable power on the site to power the entire community on a net annual basis. We just monitored our first year and we're right about just short of 90%, and we know a few things we can do to tweak that to hopefully keep going upwards and meet our 100% goal. So that became a dimension of West Village that was never in the contract with the developer. It became a shared goal. We actually ended up getting grant funds, looking at many different ways of accomplishing the zero net energy goal. So that's a whole other story. It may be interesting to you and something we could talk about at another time. I do want to say though that what then happened, and it's so interesting to me, I've actually used this phrase that I'm calling the leverage ladder. So we're leveraging West Village in all kinds of ways. First, trying to create this great community so people can be a part of our local campus life. The second is aspiring to this zero net energy goal. The third is our chancellor, and we have a new chancellor, well, not that new anymore, 5 years ago, but West Village was already well underway, and she added a dimension. She said, look, we're making this accomplishment of zero net energy, we're getting all this attention for it. What if we took all the energy institutes and centers that helped create the design for West Village and put them out around the village square so that they could collaborate better, be close to each other, they're spread all over campus, and so that people from on the outside, so public and private people who want to partner with our energy institutes and centers could find them. So we made that move. If you were to walk around the village square right now, you would see shingles hanging down for the Energy Efficiency Center and the Plug-in Hybrid Research Center and the Western Cooling Efficiency Center and the International Energy Technology Center. They're all here. In fact, their collaboration has gone way up, and in fact, people from the outside are starting to find them. So just behind the building to my left, we leased a piece of ground to Honda of America. Honda of America just built a demonstration home that is zero net energy, including the electric car, where they're demonstrating technologies to basically treat the car like your largest in-home appliance. So that's very promising to me that the car companies are starting to get into the home energy management business. So 4 levels of West Village to recap. All the work around building the mixed-use community so people could live here and have that great experience, aspiring to zero net energy, leveraging that zero net energy to become what the chancellor calls the energy hub. So we put our energy institutes and centers here, and then being accessible to outside private and public partners to hopefully take that energy research and have it travel into the next dimension. So that is a very fast recap of West Village, how it came about, what assets it's bringing to the university. I didn't say a lot about the public-private partnership, but again, those are questions and we may be able to talk about that more at a later date. So I hope that was useful, and what we'll do next is go do a quick on-site visit to Aggie Village. I'll talk to you about the particulars of that, and then the third project I'll just describe briefly because it's not on the ground yet. So we'll move on. Thank you. Okay, so here we are at project number 2, and this project's called Aggie Village. Apologize for not having more creative names for our housing communities on campus, West Village, Aggie Village, but here we are, and it's a completely different kind of project from the one that I just showed you, although there are parts of it that we used as a pilot in our thinking about West Village. One more thing about West Village before I move on to this one that I didn't really stress. You saw the buses go by and some bicycles. We have the advantage, this place is just made of bicycles, and it's flat, it's warm, it's easy bike riding. The campus and the town are laid out for bicycles. So if you live at West Village, and it's true of Aggie Village too, and you're a university employee or a student, we don't sell you a parking permit on the core campus. You leave your car at home, you get into campus on bus, bike, or walking unless you have some special access need. That caused us a little trouble at West Village with the law students who moved in the first year and challenged that, but that's a story for another day. So here we are at Aggie Village. It's a small project, 2 square blocks, right next to downtown Davis. So we're on the other side of campus from where we started at West Village, right next to the most developed part of campus and downtown Davis, which is about 8 square blocks, very active, vital, walkable street life in downtown Davis that's in the block just behind me. So the university had this piece of land that sat between the developed part of campus and downtown Davis, and we built Aggie Village. it was all related to affordability again. So at a time, this project's a little older, and it's faculty staff housing, but it has some small scale rental housing built in. The primary purpose of this one was to pilot the idea of for sale faculty staff housing. So we developed these 2 square blocks, again, on a mixed use housing formula, not as diverse or large as West Village, but it's walkable to campus and walkable to all the amenities and services of downtown Davis. So at at Aggie Village, it's 2 square blocks, and there are 3 types of housing units. There are detached single-family homes, there are shared wall townhouses, and there are the little cottages that you see behind me. The cottages actually sit on the property of the single-family home. So they're narrow lots, long lots. So the front door of the cottage faces the bike path that we're standing on right now, and then there's a little backyard that's shared with the homeowner, and then the front door of the main home sits on a street behind us, and you'll see a view of that. So, and then the split lot, the shared wall townhomes sit on the main street that faces downtown directly. So there are 3 types of housing units at 3 different levels of affordability in this small 2 square block area. The for sale homes, our goal again was to offer those about 80% of what the market value is, and we delivered those here. The fact that the cottages sit on the same lot as the single family homes and they're owned by the homeowner means that if they choose to rent those, instead of using them as a home office, for example, then they have that added income from the rental into their, that helps with their mortgage payments. And most of these cottages are in fact rented by graduate students from the homeowners. So again, and then there's the split lot townhomes, the shared wall buildings that are a price point sort of in the middle. So if you can afford the single family home with a cottage on it, you go that way. The townhomes, shared wall, are the next price bracket down. Those are both ownership units, and then the cottages are rental. So that's the way this whole thing goes together. There's a complex story about how the ground lease works and all that, but that's not the key part of the story. The key part of the story is, and I don't know if this has applicability to your situation or not, but this was a transition site between the intensively developed part of the core university campus and the city. And so this really serves as a transition. It's a little higher density housing than you might find immediately adjacent in the city, but it was a campus project. So we were hoping, again, to bridge between campus and city, and the traffic impacts, again, are very low because the people who live here are directly affiliated with the university, and so their preferred mode, and the mode that we designed in, is walking, biking, or taking the bus. So different scale project, designed for a different audience, much smaller, different location, more of a transition use than a brand new greenfield use. But hopefully you can see from this one more project that we developed to meet a specific need with our community, and we feel like it's been very successful. So that's project number 2. Project number 3, I'll just go ahead and mention here because it's still in the planning stages, and it's actually a project that we're struggling with, which I don't typically make presentations about projects that we're struggling with, but I think it, again, would be informative. It's a different situation, another strategy that we're trying. Oh, by the way, Aggie Village, again, was a project with a private developer on university land. So we did the planning, we did the entitlements, we did all the environmental reviews and everything, and for the scope and scale of the project. And then we contracted with a private developer that actually took the risk and built the homes and sold the homes, at which point the homeowner leases the ground from the university. So that's the way that transaction worked. So the third project is called Orchard Park. Orchard Park is a proposed redevelopment project that we're doing on campus. I don't know if this is true at NAU, but on the West Coast, there are a lot of the campuses have family housing areas that were built post-World War II, and they remain to be some of the least expensive housing in the entire community, and they're very much designed and suited for student families with young children. They've got lots of big outdoor play yards, they've got shared open spaces where there are people at similar times of life that can share experiences and share responsibilities with their kids. So we have 2 of those on campus. Orchard Park is one of them. And basically the buildings were wearing out. And our student housing office did a study that said we could either invest and redevelop those on site, or we could remove those buildings and completely redevelop the site. So we were going down the second path because the first path would have added significant expense to living there, and you'd still have the old buildings. So we set about to do a new project to see if we could keep the affordability as good as possible, keep the environment still so it was well designed and well suited for graduate students and other students with young families, with the play yards and the shared spaces, but it was going to cost more in the long run. So it's a project we've hit the pause button on, but I'll tell you what we tried and how far we got and why we're re-examining it. So it was another project that we sought a private development partner for, but we developed the program for development first. The strategy at Orchard Park was to do a complete redevelopment to keep the whole middle of the site on the model that I talked about. So it was lower cost housing, well suited for student families with the play yards and the shared spaces, but then try to subsidize that with other types of housing on the site that would be rented at market, where some of the income from those market rentals could go to subsidize and keep lower the rents for the student families. So we added a whole dimension of market rate student apartments that were on the border of the site, and we actually added some at market faculty staff rental housing because our real estate office felt like we definitely had the demand for people who were relocating to the community to fill that faculty staff rental housing. Both of those would be at market, and then the added ground rent, so developer would do it, the developer would pay us ground rent. We would use that ground rent from those 2 market-based projects to subsidize the family housing and keep those rents lower. So it's a really great project design that we got pretty far with. At the end of the day, the student families, many of them who were living there felt like we still weren't able to drive the rents low enough to give them the kind of housing experience that they would need to perpetuate their careers as graduate students on campus. So our chancellor hit the pause button and said, let's try again and see if there's a yet better formula that would keep the rents of those, for those student family housing yet a little bit lower. So that's the process we're in now. There's a whole group that's re-examining goals and affordability targets, and then we'll crank it up again and see if we can do better on the second round. So that's one that different circumstance, different drive towards affordability, and different process, and we're trying to do better on the second round. So that completes my overview of the 3 projects. The big project at West Village with all of its goals and particulars, this smaller downtown project at Aggie Village as a transition between campus and town, and then this Orchard Park project, very much about affordability and student families and how we can do the best job we can do there. So I hope that overview will add to the richness of your conversation at Flagstaff and at NAU, and I hope to be able to meet with you personally someday to further the conversation, and I will stay in touch, and I'm very interested in how your conversation moves forward and wish you the best of luck with it. Thanks. Bye-bye.